Hello.
Hello. It's good to see
Business
you.
is very serious. So is
Very
mental
serious
health.
topic.
So be
So
serious.
business and mental health. I'm going to do my best to be serious today.
I used to be so annoyed at us back many, many years ago when I was like, why are people so happy? Like, people aren't that happy.
I
That's
hated
fake
happy
and
people.
inauthentic. Like, stop
Yeah.
being fake.
Yeah.
And now
Well,
I'm
my
like,
whole
oh,
family hated happy people. It was a thing. It's a familial vendetta against happy people. Turns out I'm one of the happier people. So, yeah,
and you were
anyway.
just suppressing it
And
forever.
I was just suppressing all my happy. Anyway, guys, hi, welcome to True Mental Health. If you're on Facebook, hi. If you're on YouTube, hi. If you're on Instagram, hi. And we are going to dive into the topic of how mental health affects business. But I think we're actually going to talk about it from the other way. It's like, what is true mental health with business? Because you and I both do business. We love business. We kind of groove on creating new stuff. And I have a business. I just have this business. Business is up in my world constantly, one because I'm creating it, but also I just got certified in a new business certification, etc.
Just a few things.
Just a few things. So where do we want to start with this? So one of the things you mentioned when we were jumping on is that even today, you and I are both kind of in these like really diverse spaces of just being. And I think that's a business conversation because there's so many times in my life of creating business that I kind of like felt like I had to get to the right I don't even, you know what I'm saying? The right space, the right mood to create anything, or like I had to be consistent and like always be on. And I've just discovered that's not true. And what have you discovered?
It was funny because I was just like, yep, I was going to jump in with judgment too. Yep, on the same page. Yeah, just of like how many strategies are out there about doing business right and exactly what you're saying. You have to be consistent. And I was like, you know what? My energy today and just where I'm at is like in slow motion. And it's like, even if I tried after you like listed all the things that you have been up to, if I even tried to like wrap my head around it, I was like, I can't keep up, and it's just like, what if that wasn't wrong? What if I could just follow that and still create from that space, but not need to be where I'm at because, or where you're at, because it's like, I've been there before where it's like, go, 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 go. And that's great. And then I'm here, but I'm not always there. And it's like, what if that was okay? What if we could just create from that?
Yeah. And today, just so you guys know who are all listening today, I am firing on all cylinders.
Yes, and let's give them the backstory.
So she's like, what's up? And I'm like, well, I got this and I got this and I got this thing. And then we're doing this and I'm starting the book and da, da, da. And I am not always like that. So I've actually spent the last 2 months, and I think I've probably even talked about it, in a lot of kind of back end work in my life, in my business, in my, in my life. And that's the thing that I'm discovering more and more and having more allowance for, is that, living and business aren't really separate. They're intricately intertwined. And so when I was looking at the topic for the show of like, what is true mental health with business, it's like that allowance for you is so huge and paramount to all the things that can actually come through you. Like, are you discovering like the creation of business? I'm discovering the creation of business to be kind of more cyclical or acoustical, rather than this like bang, bang, bang thing, of consistency and focus and targets. Like, what is it? How is it showing up for you? Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like within my first year, it was very much, I was more in that like hyper production mode, but it didn't always feel like it was organic. Like sometimes I was like forcing it. It felt almost into like a fight or flight frenzy that didn't feel as fun for me, versus there's a pretty clear difference between that. And then when I'm like, ooh, I'm excited to create this, and ooh, I could create that and do this and that, you know what I mean? It's like, go, go, go. And that feels good and exciting. And so as I realized I was doing a lot of that fight and flight last year, and this year I'm like, I am relaxing. This is my second year. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to relax and allow things to come in. That I have had more of these kind of spacious moments that I'm seeking to be in more allowance of, because I was going into a lot of resistance at the beginning. I was like judging the hell out of it, and recognizing, well, it's just not how I function naturally. So what would it take for me to just follow that and give it some space.
Yeah. There's a few things in there that I kind of wanted to explore because one of
Yeah.
the conversations that I've been hearing a lot lately in Access is this conversation of relax. Like literally, if you would allow yourself to relax, everything would grow faster. And I cannot tell you how many years that I've resisted that. I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I like to work. I'm going to work. We have to
Yeah.
work. It's time to work. And there are these times like now where, you know, there's like super production mode. There's just like so much coming through and it's so prolific and but it's fun. It's like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
And then there's these other times where it's not like that. And it was in those times, like you were talking about, that I wouldn't actually allow myself to relax. I was like, well,
Hmm.
I should be doing something right now. I should be like, basically, I should be doing something right now. If I'm not doing something, something must be wrong, was my underlying point of view. And I've had to really learn that, you know, when you're asking for bigger things, when you're choosing bigger things, when just you choose more, and like everything changes in energetically, and the
Yeah.
universe then needs a minute to like deliver what you're asking for, and all of those generative energies need a minute to like bake, to literally allow that process and stay engaged, but not like
Hmm.
micromanage it into the ground, you know, which is what I was so good at.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it's kind of like I sense it's like I'm in my dog here is like on a couch, in the living room. And it's like I'm present that he like with his energy, but I don't have to
yeah,
have all my attention like right on him like a stage 5 clinger right now because
yeah.
I'm doing this, right? So it's like
Best term
because
ever.
I am
Yeah.
sometimes like, cuddle me. But you know what I mean? I'm here doing this, but yet it's like I still have an
Yeah.
awareness. That's like how I describe it. I'm still tapped into him. He's still right in my
Yeah.
arena. And so it's kind of like with the business, like I was gone this weekend visiting family and felt very comfortable like taking the break and just kind of still being tapped in and hey, what's going on, but just not being as in it. And then it was funny because yesterday I got back and I had this like overwhelm of frenzy energy, like I need to get the house clean. I need to do all the laundry and I should be like, I'm behind in the business. And I was like, wait a second, like this is all made up. Like, what is this right now? I'm like, what? Okay, what is, take a step back. What is actually required here? What's going to just kind of get me back kind of to zero, which was like, do laundry, just business. You have to, like, you have time. Just laundry was calling more than business. And so I honored that. That's how
Okay,
I
so
felt.
that's actually where I want to take this next because it like told the story of how you accessed what I would say is like the true mental health of business, which is like going, it's that deep breath going, okay, where is my energy actually required? Because that's what I see happening so much. And I've done it so much is like it's
Yeah.
like I take myself out of being present. It's like I take myself out of being present. That's all. I take myself out of being present by going into frenzy, by going into stress, by going into worry. And I don't do it almost at all anymore. But if I'm going to do it, those would be the ways. And so you just like articulated a tool you can actually use. Can
Yeah.
you go into that a little bit more like as a tool that people can use?
Yeah. You mean just like pinging the energy of it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, okay, here's what I heard, and you tell me.
Yeah. Okay.
You were like, all these things, and then you made yourself stop and go, wait, like what's really required right now? Like what's really needs my energy? What's requiring my attention
Yeah.
first, next,
Ask a
which then
question.
kind of like yeah, you asked a question. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, totally, because I caught myself because at first I was like, I'm gonna go get a coffee this morning and maybe I'm gonna hit the nursery. And it was funny because I was just like gonna have a nice easeful way back into
Yeah.
reality, whatever. And
Yeah.
then I got home and was like, it just kind of came over me like a wave. And I did it for a little bit, the energy, the little like, wait, run to this room, walk to this room, run to this room, like what? And then I was, wait a second, like I don't have to choose this. This is all made up. Like I don't have to do any of this that I've
Okay,
decided.
that's huge. That's
Right?
huge. Stop. That's huge. I don't have to do any of this. This is all made up. Okay, say
Yeah.
more.
I don't have to do any of this because I've decided that I must do this, or that Monday I have to do this because I've decided I have the perfect entrepreneurial calendar that has my perfect morning routine, that has every hour documented, and I'm doing it right. And no, none of that. I function more like what is calling me today. And so it's funny because it felt so open ended. I was almost feeling like, well, should I have a calendar? Well, if I had a calendar, then I would have followed it and then I would have done this. But now I'm feeling stressed because I don't know what I should be doing. but it was like all conclusion until I got to the place of just like, okay, if I couldn't get it wrong, what would I choose?
Great question.
If all this is
Okay.
made up, what would I choose?
Yes. And so, okay. So another question is like, can you actually have true mental health without question? I mean, that's the thing I've been
No.
looking at. It's like, if you don't ask questions, you're simply functioning from like what you've decided you have to do, what you projected you have to do, what you think
Yes.
you need to do, what you have to do, not like, what can I choose here? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing I see wrapping us around a tree more than anything, of like that all the things that we've decided we have to, need to, have to, should. And that the only thing that does, I learned, is that that takes us into resisting ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so I'm getting something like, then would you say for people to really get this, you would have to come from like this presupposition that like you are creating your reality, right? Life is not
Yes.
happening to you. Because
Yes.
I'm really getting that on this kind of healing journey, if you will. When you first
Mhm.
experience really extreme trauma, it's like the world is happening to you. You are the victim of life, happening to you. And as you heal and start to kind of get some clarity from that and feel stronger, then it's like, no, I'm empowered to create my reality. But unless you're in that place, it's almost like sometimes folks can't hear that they have a choice, like even within business.
Well, I think it takes a minute. I think like there was also a long period of time for me personally where I didn't really want to have another choice. I didn't know that. That wasn't
Mm,
super conscious. But there was something that was really working for me about kind of being driven around by my own necessities, I guess. It gave me a job, it gave me something to do. And so when I was really actively introduced to the conversation of choice, which is kind of all of access consciousness, is this introduction to like, hey, you're aware and you have choice. You're aware and you have choice. Um, it to me, it expanded my world so much at first that it was a little bit like being dropped into the middle of the ocean, where it was like, well, that how what it, I was used to being in like a wading pool, and then I got dropped into the middle of the ocean and was like, good luck, That's
no floaties.
no floaties, no shark, anything, protection. So and so I flailed for a bit because, and
Mm,
I didn't know how to choose. I actually just didn't know how to choose. I knew how to function from need, and I knew how to function from have to, and I mean, I'm going to say semi-function because doing that also like made I was stressed, and I wasn't really actually creating that much money, and I would really burn out my body because I didn't know that I could even listen to it, that
yeah.
was a choice for what I could do. So there was a lot that got affected from that, and it was still kind of what I knew. So, yeah, I would say, to answer your question very circularly, it's like it's a big conversation to really look at. You do create your reality, and you create your reality with everything, right? Like with your
Yeah.
and when you said something about being at the effect, I was like,
Hmm.
we actually, most of us put ourselves at the effect of our business instead of really looking at, if I were including me and
Hmm.
including the business, what would I choose? What would I be aware of? Where's my energy required? And that's been the thing that's really transformed how I can function in business and opened up these other possibilities. Because if you have to do everything yourself, and that's all you know and all you've ever been shown and all you've chosen, or any of the other different things that we use to bend ourselves around a
Yeah.
tree, then nothing else is possible. But once you have the question of like, well, what else is possible here that I haven't considered, then there are other things possible, which sounds like stupid simple, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really got that last year when you were talking about it, like including yourself in the business, because I was like, wait a second, I'm feeling at the effect of the business in the sense of I always felt like behind, like
Yeah, yeah,
and that kept me in the fight or flight. Like, let me just make the next dollar, the next, you know what I mean? Versus,
yeah,
oh, wow, okay, I need to restructure or create differently so that I can have the business work for me, so I can have some reoccurring revenue. So it's like, I know, okay, I'm going to make, at least X amount this month. Obviously things can always change, but, feeling some sort of
yeah.
that aided in my relaxation.
And you created that, but you could
Yeah.
only create that or choose that from the awareness of what wasn't working and what else must be possible here that I haven't considered.
Hmm.
And the mental health of business is like asking a question like, okay, if I were including me, if it wasn't just about what if, all the things, it's like, what could I create? And it was the same for me when I like established recurring revenue. I was like, it's really not working. This thing is like, I'm being dragged along by what it is I want to have as my life and have as my business. Like, it's dragging me behind the cart. Like, okay, what does it take to actually drive the cart? What is that? Like, if I were in the driver's seat, if I were creating this, what would I choose? And that's when I just got all this information. That's the thing, is like, without asking the question, you can't get the information, and the information's there. But so it's like looking at what question would you need to ask to unlock what is already there waiting for you as ideas, as inclusion. And I wanted to ask you something about, I hear this term work-life balance a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, we're talking about it, but we're not talking about it as balance. And I wondered like what I don't know, what your take on that is, or like, have you?
Well, before I was like a big fan. Yes, work-life balance. But that was when I was working a 9 to 5 that I wasn't really aligned with. So it was just like, yes, you need work-life balance. And to me, it was just like work less and enjoy life more, or play more. That was my, kind of reference points for it. But now I'm getting, it's like you only have work-life balance when you don't like your work. Balance your life, versus, this is why I really love the idea of like your work-life integration, or how are you seeing it, is like they're really not separate, because it's kind of like, then I can follow when it lights me up, or when I'm kind of really inspired, and follow that flood of energy that you're having right now to create. And then other times where it kind of slows down, then it's like, are they separate, or are you just like kind of flowing with it rather than doing separation with the balance?
Yeah. And that's, again, like the mental health of business has been for me, like that awareness that there is no separation in energy, right? So I'm a body of energy. My business is a body of energy. My ideas are bodies of energy. And so if you look at that, that's, it's like I am simultaneously the drop in the ocean, and the ocean and the drop. Like there's no separation. And so when I started to get that, I started communicating with everything different. And that's the thing, is once you kind of get the information that unlocks, that goes, oh, then you can start to function with it different. And until that point, though, everything was very, I guess, compartmentalized and more linear. But that's not actually how I function. And I didn't really get it until you don't get it till you get it, right? And so then, yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with that.
Well, we can't put
so energetics. You're welcome. This is my point.
That's the mic drop.
So I had a better thing to say.
You two that's all that was required. Yeah, that's all that could be heard.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So with like mental health and business, it's kind of like, what are the big things that people struggle with as entrepreneurs as they go into overwhelm, burnout, scarcity? Yeah. Like, what are the mental head trips that you do that keep you stuck?
To figure it out, trying to achieve work-life balance, instead of really looking at like including everything, including you, which is the person we usually exclude, because we always know what everyone else needs, wants, requires, and desires. But what we need, want, require, and desires, like, I don't know what that is. What do you need? So we don't even ask ourselves.
Focused on metrics, focused on like, well, I got to get enough likes and enough comments and go viral and all. Not guilty.
I never do that.
No. We can only speak to things that we have done. So, just so you know.
Oh, there's so many good comments over here too. Macy said, that is so true. I have seen that work-life balance inherently for me was saying work sucks and fun is separate from that. So interesting. Yeah. And actually, Andres said something interesting too. He's like, I find the capacity to relax comes and goes. Need more presence from me to relax. Yeah, guys. And there's this whole conversation on engaging energetically with what you're creating that I'm actually going to broaden with a series that I'm doing called the Business and Money Energy Pulse. So if you want more of that, we're starting on Sunday, because why start on Tuesday when you can start on Sunday? You could go to my website and find that out. But there is this like, I went to a Business Done Different class in Access this weekend, and Simone was really talking about, and has always talked about, is it like landing pages in your posts that create your business? Or is it like you? And of course, like, I'm a lover of landing pages. And,
I know.
Like, I love the funnel. Big fan.
I know.
And so I got myself really convinced that it was the strategies I employed, the things that I did that actually created the results. But then if she would ask me about that and I would get awareness about it, it was always that's not what did it.
Yeah.
And so I've been really sitting with that too and really going, what is my true job as an entrepreneur? Like, okay, so I've made my job getting better at X, Y, and Z, and I'm grateful that I have skills.
Yeah.
But is that my actual job? Like, or is there somebody else that can do that job? And there's a job that only I can do. Like, there's something only I can be and contribute energetically to these things I'm creating in the world, my business, that nobody else can actually be and do. Like, the business came to me and wanted me to be the mouthpiece, and here I am going, okay, well, just give me a minute. I'm gonna create a website and a template and a thing and a minute, like
Perfect.
and there are certain things that you require, like to have a business in the world. And I was like, I wonder what our job is that we have never really considered. And is there more of our being?
My ego wants to be like, well, where's the line? So then where do you decide where it's you? I want to define it. Yes, because I'm like,
Work-life balance again.
I know.
I'm into the organism. What? How do you order this conversation? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, there's only almost like so much I'm willing to let go of. Like, I'm willing to have a pretty like open schedule and not be like, okay, I need to work on this now. And then this week, you know what I mean? With where I'm at. At the same time, I'm kind of like, well, how it's kind of just playing around with like how many systems and structure will support the like creation of you to be you.
Yeah, it's interesting. To me, what's starting to bring, I mean, there's so many different business conversations we can have,
Yeah.
like systems and infrastructure and all that stuff. But one of the things that's really assisting with this kind of I think the conversation of energy can easily seem conceptual, right? And not applicable. And so what I've been really playing with is the actual things that I can engage in, like that I can choose. Almost like, so if you go to my Instagram, there's this little graphic there that says the real to-do list. It's like pull energy, ask the universe, do your office hours, destroy and uncreate who you were yesterday and who the business was yesterday. And then there is like, you just sit down and you kind of look and like, go, where's my energy required today? And you're willing to just get to work. So what I think that takes out of the equation is the stress and the pressure of needing to achieve a particular result in a particular way. There's this way of asking and choosing that has nothing to do with needing to force that into existence, which is, I think, the way we're shown to do business. Like, okay, so I want to make this much per month. What is the A plus B that will equal C? We're so trained to function from needing to create the result. And so when we function that way, the person that gets squashed by it is us. But if you let go of needing to, this is the thing I think we don't want to let go of, and this might be another really interesting conversation, but if we would let go of the need for the result to show up in a particular way, the universe could support us in all these ways that we haven't even allowed in because we haven't been willing to let go of the need for the result in a particular way.
Well, and like you said, we've kind of all been trained to function that way. Cause I was just getting like how many years that I worked a 9 to 5 or, some sort of structured job where someone told me like how many patients to see each day and what the expectations were and this need to be done. So it's like, I didn't even need to tune into the energy because it's just like I already had the to do and I just need to do it like a machine, So this is a very different way of being that almost once I got out of that, I was like, I needed a couple months to just like be.
I needed 10 years. I needed 10 years, don't you? I was like, I needed a full-on like life transformation. 10 years of access consciousness later, I think I'm finally getting it.
Well, and do you sense that like that's exactly it? Because like, do you sense it almost that's something that might stop people from leaving the 9 to 5 or whatnot to create their own thing for that almost too much space. Like there's too much freedom in that, almost like how do they contain themselves kind of thing,
Right. Yeah, no, I think it could be confronting for sure. I've never met anybody that's looking at a total life change that isn't confronted.
Yeah.
I think it's confronting. I don't see a way around that because what you're looking at is stepping out of what's comfortable and known into seriously the unknown. What we don't know is that the unknown is really where we thrive. That is actually where we thrive.
You're going to need to say more to that because that one just like, oh, got my heart all happy.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you look at how much of your life you've created as predictable, I guess one of the first things to look at is it actually predictable? I mean, I think one of the
Mm,
things that we've seen
mhm.
more dynamically than ever before is that the things we thought were stable aren't.
Yeah.
Literally, laws can be changed, governments, whatever, can do
In flight.
whatever. It just,
Yeah.
like, is it actually stable or are we
Yeah.
just pretending that it is?
Mhm.
And and then what are the moments when like you have felt your heart take flight, like you just said, where you're like, oh, and was it in the predictable moments or was it in the moments that were like unexpected, that were, surprised you, that were this adventure that you didn't even know was going to be an adventure? Those are when we come alive, but I think they're so rare that it's like it's like we write them off to something that happens when we go on a vacation or something that it happened at the beginning of a relationship, but that was all. And so we don't consider it as the way that we could actually choose to live. And in those moments, like that's the joy of living. That's that adventure of living that could seem risky to some, but for you might be life worth living.
Yeah.
And I wasn't introduced to that conversation until Access Consciousness. I'm like, I can create life worth living. What is that for me? And so then that started to open up all these different choices that I didn't even know that I had, and
Yeah.
um I don't know, that's a very like broad, I think, conversation, but like it's this I have no idea. I've lost my point
Yeah,
again.
no, I just mean there's more there. Because I was getting well, when I had left my 9 to 5 or put in my notice and whatnot, it was like
Yeah.
almost like the cloud lifted and I just had
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
extreme euphoria. So it's like exactly what you're saying. Like when I choose the scary things, I get the highest
Yeah.
return.
That.
And the emotional
That.
feeling, like, I was like, "Wow,
That.
I haven't felt this happy in a while," or when I've just, like, all these things, like, starting to do lives, like, "Ah, it's very I'm freaked out," but then I feel so excited or elated after or joyful or whatever, um, for however you wanna say it,
Totally,
accomplishing those
totally.
things, but it's like
Yeah.
choosing the thing that
Yep.
has you the most
Like
about.
freaked out. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like once you and I do want to put in here, like sometimes you need to keep the job and build the business. And then but
totally.
you always know when it's time and it's
Yeah.
always going to be super uncomfortable and make you sweat and be one of the most exciting things you could possibly choose all at the same time. Um, and I keep wanting to say something, but it goes away. So I must not need to say it. Um, yeah. I mean, I have done so many of these leaps. Like my latest leap is to actually write the book. Like I have six
Mhm.
different books that I've got like partially mapped out. And
Yeah.
it's like I've known it. So now it's time. So, like making that leap into putting it in my calendar. With this one, I'm putting it in my calendar.
Yeah, well, I get it. Well, that's the
I'm sh-
thing. Great example of, like, putting the system in to
yeah.
support the creative output,
Yes,
you know?
yes, and this comes from, like, years of knowing me, of, like, I
Yeah,
know that if I do not choose this regularly at this time, I just won't get it. I won't do it. I won't.
yeah,
And so I'm putting in place the system that will support the, institution of the thing that, and I know there's all these different ways to write a book, and I've, like, played with all these different ways. Well, you can just do a transcript and blah, blah, blah. This is the way that works for me. And I think that's
mhm,
another thing that's really essential to know about the mental health of business is like there's a way that works for you that doesn't have to work for anybody else. What's that? Choose that. So that's my latest like jumping off a cliff of like, okay, we're doing this thing. Like, how can we schedule an event that I'm like bound to so that I can like, invite myself to really, really put this into the world, even though it scares the shit out of me
mhm,
and all of that. So
mhm.
it's always going to scare the shit out of you. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
knowing to know what nervous system tools to regulate enough, right? If we need to do a little extra breath work, shake it out, tap, whatever, walk, do whatever your body requires just to help facilitate a little more ease in the
totally. Yeah, totally, totally. You move your body and
move it.
ask a question like, is now
Mhm.
the time? Is now the time? And for anything, whether you're already in business, or you are looking to jump, doesn't matter. Ask a question. What's
Yeah.
possible here that I haven't considered? Is now the time? If I choose this, will my life get greater in 5 years? Yes. Ah! And then all of a sudden you're in the adventure of living. And that's to me been the most exhilarating fucking ride of all time.
So you know what we need to do
Tell me.
is do a show on questions And what if
Yes.
we had the show and we could only speak in question?
You guys, you're gonna watch us like this is gonna be entertaining. I'm in. Let's do it next
You
week.
like that?
I like
That
it.
kind of scares me a little. So I'm like,
This terrifies me. This is how you know you're in the adventure of living when you're sweating. Okay.
exactly,
When you say something that makes you sweat and grin at the same time, you've hit the jackpot.
exactly. But don't have too much fun because those people are annoying, right?
Yeah, I hate those people. Anyway, if you want to come hate those people with us, you
Yes.
can. I am doing a series of business and money energy polls that will really start to teach you and show you and allow you to experience truly engaging energetically with your business and with money. It starts Sunday. And what is
Yes.
happening? What are you
I
doing?
saw my energy flows for CEOs, my program that is starting May 26th. So I'm taking applications now, and it's all about communicating with your business and following the energy of you and what works for you. And, because ultimately that's what's going to create the greatest versus like following all these, system strategies that everyone's telling you to do. What are you aware of? What do you know? And getting more clear on that. So
Cool. And keep your eyes peeled too if you want more access consciousness business tools. And I have a business done different class coming at the end of the month too. So there's
awesome.
lots of resources for you if you are wanting to strengthen that in your world.
Amazing.
Amazing. I adore you guys. I adore you.
Adore you. All right, y'all. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.